Welcome to the More Perfect Union, a podcast about the joy we get from American politics, or as we like to call it, real debate without the hate. My name is Helena Henry. I am an evangelical conservative from Colleyville, Texas.
I'm Rebekah Cushmiter. I'm a Unitarian Universalist liberal from Kensington, Maryland.
Hi, I'm Cliff Dunn. I'm a Republican from Newport News, Virginia.
I'm Greg Matuzak, a liberal Democrat from Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I'm DJ McGuire from Suffolk, Virginia, and I've been told I am the conservative Democrat, which is troubling to me, but we'll put that to one side for now. With over 65,000 downloads last month, The More Perfect Union is one of the fastest rising political podcasts on iTunes. The More Perfect Union can also be found on YouTube, Facebook, and at our website, moreperfectunionpodcast.com, where you can also find host bios and commentary. And remember to check out our midweek More Perfect After Dark podcast, where we take you behind the scenes to hear what we chat about once the official show is over.
So, this week, did anyone hear the Flynn offer for immunity? Did anyone think it was an April Fool's Day joke, by the way?
No, because it was on like Tuesday. It was the 27th, I think.
I know, but it was as if he had never heard of this thing called video, because he had just said 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, anyone asking for immunity must be guilty. And fast forward 4, 5, 6 months, hey, can I get immunity because I might need something? But don't worry, I'm not guilty or anything. It's just, something.
So all that is, what that is someone who got a lawyer.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's literally the only difference.
An immunity request just means you're lawyer.
Yeah, it's not
worth their fees.
So I'm sensitive to the reality that we're seeing a lot of smoke here with the Russia business, and there's probably something to that. And I think at this point, it'd be foolish to insist it's complete coincidence across the board. But I don't think that the immunity request means what people think it means. I think no lawyer who is worth his salt would set Flynn up for any sort of information exchange without this guarantee. And I think the reason why he hasn't gotten it yet isn't because there's some smoking gun that's about to be unearthed. I think it's more because Congress is trying to figure out how this plays with the Department of Justice's investigation.
I said that about when Hillary's IT person was being interviewed by the FBI and got immunity, and my response to that was so that person has a good lawyer who asked for immunity. I think that's the same thing with Flynn. But I figured there are about 3 possibilities for what the fact that the Senate has affirmatively turned him down for immunity at this point. But I figured there are 3 things. Either they know what he's going to say and it's not that good. They know what he's going to say and it's so bad that immunity is not appropriate, or they're worried that he's going to Ollie North the whole thing and take all the blame and then walk away with his immunity.
Yeah, I was thinking that it was that it's either, as you said, Ollie Northing it, or
I like that Ollie North is a verb on this show. I think that's important to note that we've turned that into an action.
But my suspicion is they don't think he knows much of anything useful, and whereas he could easily, with his immunity, I would be surprised if he hadn't engaged in some technical violation of a law somewhere that he's trying to cover himself for, i.e. bringing out some failure to disclose foreign agent status or something like that. Something arcane like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he totally didn't declare that. But like, against the advice, like, he went to White House counsel and said, hey, should I let everybody know I was a foreign agent? And White House counsel said, nah, and it's a clown car. The White House is so bad.
I'm sorry, but you're all missing the plot. Because the plot here has nothing to do with General Flynn anymore. It all has to do with Svetlana Lakova, the Cambridge University student that began an email relationship with General Misha, as Flynn called himself, when he first made contact with her in 2014.
Is Flynn married?
I'm not sure, but does it matter?
Well, if he's unmarried, he can have relationships with all the Svetlanas he wants.
Even if he's married, he can have relationships with all the Svetlanas.
Well, if he's married, he can, but he's going to get in trouble for it.
General Misha is a much better name than, what was Anthony Weiner's?
Carlos Danger! Best
Carlos
pseudonym
Danger.
ever!
Right, I was going to say General Misha is a much better pseudonym than Carlos. No, I take it back. I think I like Carlos Danger better.
Because everything is wrong with Carlos Danger. There's nothing okay about that.
Carlos Danger sounds like a character on Archer.
Yeah,
Carlos
exactly.
Danger sounds like a character in Captain Underpants.
If you say, hey, will you send me a picture, Carlos Danger, and you do not receive something obscene, that's on you. But,
okay, so are you really telling me that you don't think there's anything to the fact that General Flynn, when he was still at the Defense Intelligence Agency, not only struck up a friendship with this woman, but asked her to be his translator on an official trip to Moscow, according to the London Telegraph?
He is married. He married his high school sweetheart.
Oh, that's
okay.
So, DJ, are you suggesting that he hired her for her oral skills?
Salute, Cliff.
Salute. Well done. Well done.
I mean, if the Svetlana thing is actually true, and I've never heard anything about this until DJ brought it up.
That's why you have to read British press, Rebekah. You can't just stick your media just in the United States. You have to broaden your horizons.
Which British paper would you suggest that our listeners go to for this?
I would recommend the Telegraph. Do not touch the Daily Mail. As soon as you start reading the Daily Mail, you'll never get off it. It's an addiction. It's a drug. Stay away from it. It's opioid for the internet. And I say this as an addict. Stay away from the Daily Mail. But check out the Telegraph.
Drugs, kids.
They have everything.
Just say no.
So DJ, really, is this really the lens that England and Europe probably is seeing the Flynn situation? Is not so much as the Russian is that he had a potential affair with a British Oxford.
The Russian angle is very much a part of it. They are wondering who this woman really is. They're wondering what ties she does have
She's
to Russia.
She's an FSB agent. That's who she really is. Come on.
I can't exactly disagree with Rebekah. That's usually my default go-to answer is that it's FSB. That's what they are looking at now. And they're wondering, wait a minute, why didn't we know anything about this? Why are we only hearing about this 3 years later?
Why am I not knowing anything about this? Why am I not hearing anything about this?
I understand that. I understand that. We're all in the same boat with House of Commons. We're all sitting back saying, what the hell just happened here?
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go look this up. General Misha.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody on our end really dropped the ball.
Yeah. Is this a CNN thing, or just general laziness, or Fox News, or is someone? That's.
I think general
awesome.
laziness is CNN's defense correspondent.
This was totally not where I thought this would go when we started talking about her.
Ladies and gentlemen, our fellow listeners, in the podcast of drunk comedians, the sober gentleman is king. All hail His Majesty Cliff.
I think basically any subject comes to a grinding halt once the name Svetlana gets tossed into it.
Now, Helena...
suddenly we're in the musical chess.
Helena's the one that I was going to ask this question, because
I don't know.
She's the
No,
law person.
I don't know.
She's not the one who knows about Russian.
Don't know.
She's already running away screaming from this.
I wasn't alive. I don't know.
She wasn't alive when this happened. Now, immunity can only be given, if I'm correct, by Sessions, or it can be given by Congress, but it has to confer with the Attorney General.
So what Congress has to do is they have to check with the Department of Justice, because the Department of Justice is going to do its own investigation, and there's different considerations that they will have that Congress may not share. You're not going to have complete overlap there. So that's why we're not seeing a move yet by Congress. And I get that Schiff and people have come out and want to pontificate openly and maintain healthy skepticism in Schiff's words, or McCain wants to call it unusual. It's not really any of those things. It's actually, I think, putting aside the fact that we're considering whether the current administration, has ties to our Cold War nemesis, putting that aside, is actually par for the course.
Even though Sessions could be involved in all of this.
Well, but he's recused from all this, isn't he?
No, he hasn't recused it. Well, not from
this portion.
Not from
I don't
this.
think. I think what he recused himself from was narrower than this question. He's not recused himself from all Russia.
No, that's a pretty big place.
Where does he stand on Svetlana?
We should check his emails. Did he delete his emails? Where are the emails? I don't know.
Text messages?
No, check the emails.
You know who wouldn't get involved with anyone named Svetlana, apparently, is Mike Pence, who has some rather strict rules for how he conducts himself around women not his wife. And people read the article where this was detailed, but I wasn't one of those people, so I'm going to walk away from sharing any more information now.
Yeah, that's the one where Mike Pence actually admitted that he would not have dinner with a woman unless his wife was there. So if there was a business opportunity or if anything like that, he just wouldn't do that. So it upset a lot of feminists and a lot of people who thought, well, that's ridiculous that you cannot be seen in public with a woman. I mean, whether she's older, younger, or another, he says, I just don't do that. That's crazy talk.
Well, it's one way to avoid a scandal.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I've heard of some people up in Richmond who have similar self-imposed rules, and it's for the purpose of avoiding scandal or insinuations of scandal. So I think he's just being overly overly is a relative term and a matter of opinion, but he's being extremely careful in what is a very tabloid-heavy environment these days.
I think it's bigger than that. I have a lot of outrage towards the response to this issue with Pence, and it's not directed at you fine folk here tonight. It's directed at the liberal media in general. The response completely fails to appreciate what it is Mike Pence is doing. And what Pence is doing is implementing boundaries and guardrails to honor his wife, to honor his marriage, to make sure that there's no concern or question as to what he does with other people. And the notion that this is something that affects women professionally or prevents women from rising to the top the same way a man could is just preposterous, frankly. There's nothing, no one is saying that Pence can't be out in public with a woman. What he's saying is, I'm not going to go to a candlelit restaurant one-on-one with a woman at my table that's not my wife, right? Add another person there, and it's fine. Add, if it's two women, if it's a guy and a girl, whatever it is. But I think that this is something that our culture doesn't understand. It's a foreign concept, this concept of guardrails and of having marriage be something that is a revered and honored institution and something that is protected. And I think that where the problem is, and where he trips up a bit, is he does what I think is a very honorable and respectable thing with his marriage, but also chose to run alongside a man who bragged about sexually assaulting women.
Yeah.
And
who did not honorable about his marriage, or about any of his
I was about to mention
So,
that. It's hard to.
I see.
Okay.
So it was a well-balanced ticket.
It was right. We have one that honors women, one that disparages women. Yeah.
But even that whole concept of balance, I mean, it's hard to see women as equals, and it's hard to say you're an equal, you're everything, but I cannot be seen in public alone with you or eat a meal with you alone because you're not a man.
Well, look at all the insinuations that flew around Ted Cruz during the primary, where he and his secretary were going out for steak, or one of his staffers were going out for steak once in a while, and everybody tried to blow it up into Ted Cruz is having an affair. He must be. He's having dinner with a woman who's not his wife.
It's not just a tabloid thing. I'm going to say something controversial here. Men and women are equal in terms of worth. Men and women are not the same, right? So if you have like a thermos and a wine glass, you can throw a thermos on the ground and it's fine. You throw a wine glass on the ground and it shatters. A wine glass is not inherently more or less valuable than a thermos, but they are not the same thing. So for Mike Pence to say, I am not going to have dinner alone with a woman at a restaurant, is not saying women are not worthy. It is not saying I think that there's some, inherent value that men have that women don't possess. It's saying that I recognize I made a vow to my wife, and I also recognize that this woman may be someone's wife or daughter or whomever, and I want to respect that. And there is an appearance of impropriety that accompanies my candlelit dinner with a woman that doesn't happen if there's a third party there or a man there.
No. I see where you're coming from.
I'm listening to this discussion. I'm listening to what Helena says, and I know she's sincere, and I know she is honorable in what she says. But I can't help hearing in the back of my mind, well, she went to dinner with him. She was asking for it.
No. She's not saying that.
No.
I know that. I understand she's not saying that. But the fact of the matter is, what Mike Pence is saying is, what Mike Pence is literally saying is, anytime I sit down at a table with a woman and it is dark outside, then it is somehow dishonorable, or that is somehow prurient, or it is somehow not above board. Where if it is a man, we don't have that discussion. And that is inherently
and blame the press for that.
Fair.
Well, I'm going to play the role of the liberal media here for just a minute.
No, Mike Pence, just because the media is willing to say stupid things does not mean that Mike Pence has to listen to them. Mike Pence could very easily go to dinner with a female staff member and, or go to a bar, whatever the hell it is, and go, look, you morons.
Go to Tortilla Coast.
Look, you morons, I am having dinner with a woman. I am not going to sleep with her. Go the hell away. I mean, this is essentially Pence is using the press version of using a version of the heckler's veto. Oh, everyone is going to say that this could be an untoward situation. So I'm going to punish every woman who works with me by making it impossible for them to have a one-on-one with me because I don't want this situation to happen. Whereas instead he could have put up a middle finger to the media and said, I can have dinner with whoever the hell I want, and I know that I'm an honorable man, and I know that she is an honorable woman, whoever the hell she is, and you people are all a bunch of effing morons.
But he doesn't want to. This isn't, I think we're getting caught up on the media angle and the tabloid angle. I don't think that's what this is for him. He doesn't want to. Like, he does not have the desire to go and do that. This isn't a PR thing. This is like how he lives out his faith. And this is how he chooses to honor and love and serve his wife and behave in his marriage. And look, I think that if we're going to sit here and pretend that, like, things don't happen when men and women go to dinner together, I think that's foolish, frankly. And it's how people fall in love. It's how things start. So I think that people are making much too big a deal of this, and I think that he deserves a lot more respect than he's getting for the decisions he's made.
I will agree people make much too big a deal of this because, I mean, really, who would really want to spend who outside of Mrs. Pence would want to spend an hour with Mr. Pence? But
he was good looking when he was younger, so,
Yeah, but he's not younger anymore. I was good looking when I was younger. Look at me now.
I was good looking when I was younger, so
I'm so totally hot even now.
Let that be a warning to you young men out there.
Well, let me throw something else out there. It's not simply about the situational analysis of, should I be at dinner with this woman who is not my wife? It is the fact that maybe Mike Pence fundamentally, as Helena said, sees men and women as different, and that becomes a lens through which he views the entire world. And if he's constantly thinking of women as an object of desire, some other man's property, something that he is not allowed to get too close to, does that make him a fair boss?
No, it doesn't.
It makes him a more fair boss than the man who doesn't do that.
No,
yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely does.
If he automatically assumes that any woman who sits at a table with him for dinner is out to sleep with him, that does not make him a fair boss. That makes him a more unfair boss.
That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a man who assumes everyone wants to sleep with him. We're talking about a man who appreciates the fact that men and women are like fallible human beings who make mistakes, and that things happen, and that if he's not careful and if he doesn't implement appropriate boundaries, things can go awry. Think about how many predatory men, this is a stereotype, right? The predatory CEO who wants the secretary in skirts because he doesn't have those boundaries. Imagine if instead of looking at his secretary in a tight skirt and making some comment about the shape of her body, instead he said, that's someone's daughter, right? That's like God's daughter. That's some man, that's Joe's daughter. That's someone's sister. That's someone's wife. And I want her to be treated with the same respect and honor and dignity that I would want my own daughter to be treated with. And that's how I'm going to view her. And I'm not going to be alone, having her bring me coffee in her skirt in my office. office because I don't want to do that to her.
Which means he refuses to treat her with the same respect and dignity and appreciation for her own autonomy that he treats his sons.
No, it means she's a wine glass and his sons are a thermos. It means they are different. That doesn't mean they're not inherently equal in worth, inherently equal in value. It means they are different, and you treat them differently. And I think a lot of people on my side of the aisle can't stand the new thinking here that there's no such thing as differences anymore.
I'm finding something that really kind of, I'll say, frustrating in this debate insofar as somebody who doesn't implement guardrails gets insinuations about what they're doing. But then if somebody does implement guardrails of some sort, they also get insinuations. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, look, we spent
really
the top of the podcast joking about Svetlana and how inappropriate and outrageous it was that Mike Flynn is emailing this Russian girl, right? We just did the exact opposite. The honorable thing would have been if Mike Flynn took a Mike Pence approach, right? Was I'm not going to email this Russian woman and have her come with me on my trips.
So if you're going to be damned either way, then I say be damned in a manner that appreciates and respects the autonomy of the other person and doesn't automatically assume that something is going to happen if you have dinner with them, or doesn't automatically assume it's more likely. And that's
what if he's assuming that there's a chance I
problem.
make her uncomfortable? There's that this young secretary.
Then you ask them. You don't necessarily just throw up a rule that does not take into account their point of view and what they think.
Do I want my superior asking me, Helena, are you comfortable being alone with me in a car?
This is about far more than his superior or inferior. This would have been about fellow members of Congress when he was in Congress. This would be about people at his level in foreign countries. This would be about Angela Merkel, although granted, no one should want to have dinner alone with Angela Merkel, but that's a separate discussion.
What about Theresa May?
Nice.
What about Theresa May?
I'm not a fan of Angela Merkel. Theresa May, on the other hand, exactly. He's basically saying that if Donald Trump falls ill and he has to go out on some dinner somewhere, that he can't have a one-on-one dinner with Theresa May. So he's basically willing to insult the entire United Kingdom.
Secret Service.
He is willing to insult the entire United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland over this.
No.
But he would never be one-on-one with Theresa May. He knows it, because he would have 15 Secret Service agents and Jared Kushner over his shoulder.
Exactly. We need to talk about that at some point, by the way, how Jared Kushner is everywhere, but another podcast.
Well, and I guess this does beat the Sarah Palin global leader speed dating affair back in 2008.
None of those things are the situations we're talking about. None of these people are going into a back room by themselves, completely alone and talking off the record. That's not what we're discussing here. So the notion that this really, in some serious way, affects people's professional trajectories or how policy is made is just foolish.
What about CEOs? There are many, hundreds, thousands of CEOs of small and large businesses who would like to have a lunch or who would like to see.
That's fine. Why can't Mike Pence have an aide there?
But would he have to have an aide? Would he have to have an aide with a male CEO? At this point, it is limiting. And if the CEO wants to at that point say, "Hey, I kind of would like you to slip you this briefcase full of money," you know what I mean? Well, now we have a witness that we have to kill. So now that death.
Are you speaking from experience, Greg?
Hey! I assume we're not taping this, are we? Oh crap! But you know what I'm talking about. At this point, it's not just.
We're back to talking about Mike Flynn, aren't we?
Oh, God.
Okay,
how hard is it for me to get immunity?
Let us put aside either of the magic mics and move on to the president.
Oh, God, there's a freaking image. Now I'm thinking of Mike Flynn and Mike Pence on stage dancing like Channing Tatum, and I'm very upset about this.
Are you shipping the mics, Rebekah?
This is giving a new meaning to a hot mic.
Hold on. I'm not saying that people have to do this. I'm not saying people have to do what Mike Pence does. I'm saying that I wish as a society and within the media there was more reverence and respect for the choice that Mike Pence has made, given how much we criticize the opposite types of choices.
Just for the record, I've never had lunch with Mike Pence.
Thank you, Rebekah. Moving on to the president, who signed an executive order that he said would magically resurrect the coal industry, and that his critics say will magically destroy the world, which tells you that neither will actually happen.
Before you go on, did someone give him magic beans at this signing? Like, here, sign this, and I'll give you 2 magic beans to resurrect the coal industry.
I don't.
They may have said they did that.
Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
I see someone saying, look, magic beans,
Keep
Mr. President.
So, once again, the president signed an executive order that essentially removed just about all of the regulations that his predecessor had imposed regarding carbon dioxide emissions, mostly on power plants, as I recall. And this has actually created a perfect opportunity for the Democrats. And, of course, my new party is so utterly oblivious to it that nobody has picked it up. Essentially, Donald Trump has killed the regulatory approach to, quote, fighting global warming, unquote. Now, I'm going to plant my flag here, and I'm going to say that I have serious issues with global warming alarmism. I think they have not addressed the temperature adjustment issue. I'm a cost estimator. I have to adjust data all the time as part of my work. We call it normalization. In climatology, it's called homogenization of temperature data, but they've never explained how. They tell us why, but they don't explain how. I have never seen formulas. I've never seen methodologies. All I have seen is that the adjustments seem to make the recent warming worse. I have seen Michael Mann truncate data to fit his view of the way of the world. It was actually called Mike's nature trick, for those of you who are wondering what ClimateGate really was about. And so I am just something at a loss to see why Democrats are so willing to be in a panic over this, when one, the science is not quite as robust as they would like to think it is, and two, science never dictates policy. You don't have to use a regulatory scheme to reduce carbon dioxide emissions if that's where you want to go. You don't have to go with an international cap and trade system. And in fact, if Europe is any example, the Stockholm Environmental Institute has shown us that Vladimir Putin actually made the European cap and trade scheme worse. The best way to deal with carbon emissions, if it's really a problem, is a tax. It is more open. It is more flexible. It only requires the passing of a law. It doesn't require a bunch of regulations that automatically get tied up in court and that can get reversed by the next administration. It can be countered with tax reductions elsewhere. In fact, it would be better if we taxed carbon instead of, say, taxing corporate income and individual income. British Columbia did that in 2008. They have the lowest unemployment in Canada at this point. And all the Democrats have to do is say to the Republicans, your tax reform plan is capsizing. You've got an unpopular border adjustment tax that nobody likes. Just swap it out with a carbon tax and we can talk and you can make this bipartisan and we can save the world and cut income taxes and everybody walks away happy. And I am flabbergasted that not a single Democrat in Washington has actually considered that. Are they really so desperate to deny the Republican Party any victory they can find that they are willing to risk their?
Yes.
So you're really telling me that saving. You're telling. Here's my question. Here is my question to Greg and Rebekah. My apologies to Helena and Cliff. Sit down and shut up.
No.
To Greg and Rebekah is my question. Are you really telling me that saving the world is less important than keeping the corporate tax rate at 35% instead of 20%?
Okay, hashtag, nevertheless, she persisted. I wasn't going to say anything because DJ told me to sit down and shut up. Now I have to. I'm just going to note that a lot of this is like much hullabaloo over nothing because the executive order targeted the Clean Power Plan that the Obama administration tried to implement, but that plan never actually went into effect because there was a Supreme Court stay issued that essentially blocked the plan from being implemented. So this thing that Trump is undoing never really happened in the first place.
And I'm going to jump in and say that and please, Greg and Rebekah, tell me if you think I'm wrong on this. But it's not that X is more important than Y in terms of policy outcomes. It's that winning the next election is more important than X or Y. And that the Democrats see fouling up anything the Republicans can do as a way to try and win the next election because, let's face it, if we look at the last 8 years, that was more or less that seems to be the winning formula these days.
And I'm not saying this is the right thing to do. I'm saying this is the strategy that's being employed. I'm not saying I'm all for it. I'm just saying that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are sitting around saying, all right.
So they're all a bunch of Harry Bordens, and they just want to rule the world because it'll be a blasted Maine place, but they'll be the most important person in it.
Heck yeah.
Bingo.
If I knew what you were talking about, I'd probably agree with you.
No one else has seen Cast a Deadly Spell. Duly noted.
No. I mean, Al Gore has a new movie coming out, and it's a sequel to his original Truth movie, and it's going to just make
great Al Gore Mortis.
all the GOP just. Oh, I know, and it's going to sell. It might get him another Nobel Peace Prize.
Is it going to explain the methodology behind the temperature adjustments?
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's going to use all sorts of science. And at one point, he takes his thumb around his fist, and you know what? It makes it look like it actually comes off. I mean, it is all sorts of full of stuff. I mean,
and everyone who sees the movie gets a pony.
Yes, but
a pink one.
And yes, we are out for, and when I say we, I mean Democrats. We are out, and if you didn't listen to last week's Gorsuch debate, yeah,
Is that what we're calling it? Debate.
And we're not getting into that. We are out for our pint of blood now.
I have no problem with the Democratic Party going to the wall over Gorsuch.
We're not getting into that. But I would like to talk about.
I'm fine with them going to the wall on that one. My point is this: this is a perfect political opportunity because you can basically say to the Republican Party, "Okay, fine. We know how important tax reform is to you. We know how important it is to your donors. We know how important it is to the people who know Donald Trump is crazy but voted for him anyway. You want tax reform? Fine. We'll even help you with tax reform. Just instead of a border adjustment tax, put a carbon tax in its place." And we'll work with you to get something passed and put the ball in their court. They can save the world and have their income tax reductions. Will they do that? Throw the gauntlet down on them. I'd like to see Democrats smart enough to say, go ahead, Republicans, balls in your court. Save the world and lower taxes, or follow that moron who tells you that global warming is a Chinese creation, which even I think is crazy, and throw this and burn this all down.
Burn it down. Burn it down! But you know what? You can't burn it down. A judge is saying you cannot use language that incites violence, at least not if you are the Trump campaign. There's a lawsuit. This is going to be the most awkward segue I've ever attempted. There's a lawsuit. Some activists are suing the Trump campaign and a couple of white supremacists for inciting violence at a campaign event, and a judge is actually upholding this notion and allowing the suit to go forward. Does anybody have any thoughts on
this? So, look, I think this is much like the Flynn thing overstated. The judge here, I think this is a federal district court judge in Kentucky. What he declined to grant the administration's or the campaign's motion to dismiss. So all the judge was saying is the plaintiffs here brought a claim, right? They properly stated a claim for which relief could be granted. Right, it would be plausible. So not to get too in the weeds here, there are these two cases that are notable in civil procedure, Iqbal and Twombly, and they talk about what sort of pleading requirements a plaintiff has to meet in order for their claim to survive. And essentially, I don't know the specific claims and allegations that were brought against the administration, but essentially they just have to give notice pleading. They have to give notice of the claim. So the judge here did not say President Trump, incited violence. What he said was the plaintiffs have pled allegations that, since under the law we have to take them as true, we have to assume they're true for the time being, those allegations in and of themselves are sufficient to state a claim and a plausible claim upon which relief could be granted, so we're not going to grant a motion to dismiss. But he's not saying, yes, Trump incited violence.
I've been here before so many times. It was with each and every little court case that stumbled forward a couple of steps against the Bill Clinton administration, no matter what it was. And we were all told, as Republicans when I was one, that this would be the court case that would bring down Bill Clinton. And of course it never was. And now the shoe is on the other foot. The Democrats are now hoping that every little court case and every little ruling against Trump will somehow bring him down. That's not how Donald Trump's going to be brought down. Donald Trump will be brought down by being defeated for re-election in 2020, and you have to beat him on policy. Stuff like this is just not going to cut it, folks.
Donald Trump is going to be brought down by eating overcooked steak with ketchup.
But what's
Tell us
interesting
more.
about
Tell
this
us
case,
more.
though, but what I
Where?
like about this case, though, is that Donald Trump has said, "I can't be. I'm the president. This has to be dismissed." Correct? He's already said. I think he's
right.
tweeted about it.
He's used the Richard Nixon defense. If the president does it, it's not illegal.
Right.
Well,
That doesn't necessarily
it's a
hold, but who
serious
cares?
question. No, here's the question though: is Trump actually named in it, or is it the Trump campaign? Distinct entities.
No, there are allegations that Trump specifically said certain things that, may have incited violence, or it's plausible that those statements incited violence. So I don't know if the formal party is is Trump specifically or the Trump campaign, but they're talking about words he said.
I think it's the Trump campaign.
Yeah,
I think that's the language used.
Yeah, because what it sounds like is that on Trump's end, he conflated the fact that because they didn't name him as a defendant, unlike the lawsuits against Bill Clinton, where he was named as a defendant, you can't punt until he's out of office. Because the courts have, with respect to Bill Clinton, I believe the courts did hold that the president isn't subject to being dragged down into these things while he's in office by virtue of the office. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But if they're going after the campaign, even if they're dragging what he may or may not have said into things, yeah, the case can go forward, at least for now.
Well, I believe the phrase that's at issue is Trump saying, "Get them the hell out of here," regarding the plaintiffs. I think that's what it is. I haven't read deeply into it. And that apparently incited white supremacists to, I don't know, bodily drag them out or something.
I don't think it takes much to incite white supremacists, I'm told. So I'm told. I mean, they're an excitable bunch.
And so as to avoid inciting either white supremacists or Donald Trump's Twitter account, thank you very much for listening. Please follow us on Twitter at MPU Podcast and on Facebook at facebook.com/moreperfectunionpodcast. And share our link on your Facebook timeline so your friends can discover us as well. And if you would like to join our political debate between shows, join us in our Facebook group, Open Fire Politics. We're all there and we'd love to see you there too. Until next week, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's our closer tonight. Just bye-bye. It's an SNL sketch. Goodbye. Goodbye.